The transmission came through, garbled, desperate. "They've broken through the Kuiper defense line. Earth has maybe 3 days. God help us all." Commander Veril Sorens stared at the holographic display, watching as the red dots representing the Maikari fleet swarmed toward Earth like hungry locusts. Everyone on the bridge of the UES Defiance held their breath. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Maikari were supposed to be contained at Neptune, the combined forces of the United Earth. Alliance should have held them there. "Status report," Veril demanded, her voice steady despite the terror threatening to crawl up her throat. Lieutenant Ixora Drell's fingers flew across her console. "Maikari fleet consists of approximately 2,000 vessels. They've adapted to our phase shield technology. The Neptune garrison," her voice faltered. "There are no survivors. 8 billion lives on Earth, 3 days. The math was simple and horrifying. Send word to Admiral Rennick. We're executing Protocol Omega," Veril said, ignoring the shocked gasps around her. Protocol Omega had never been anything more than a theoretical last resort, a desperate gambit developed by Earth's finest minds for a scenario everyone hoped would never come. It was suicide, with a small chance of victory. "Commander," Chief Science Officer Lasevo Tamir approached, lowering his voice. "Protocol Omega has never been tested. The quantum displacement could tear the Defiance apart." "And what's the alternative?" Veril asked, gesturing to the display. "We watch Earth burn?" The Maikari had appeared 18 months ago, emerging from the darkness beyond Pluto. They communicated only once: submit or perish. When humanity's response had been defiance, the slaughter began. Colony after colony fell. The Maikari weapons were devastating, tearing apart matter at the subatomic level. Their biotechnology allowed them to adapt to any human defense within days. Veril activated the ship-wide communication system. "Attention all crew of the UES Defiance, this is Commander Sorens." She paused, weighing her next words carefully. "You all know what we're facing. The Maikari have broken through at Neptune. Earth has 3 days, maybe less." The silence that followed was deafening. "We are implementing Protocol Omega. All personnel not essential to this operation will evacuate to the nearest jump point. The rest of us..." She steadied herself. "The rest of us are going to save Earth or die trying." Protocol Omega was elegant in its insanity. Use the experimental quantum drive to teleport directly into the heart of the Maikari fleet, deploy a modified version of their own matter disruption technology against them, and pray that the Defiance's shields held long enough to escape the chain reaction. The evac pods launched within 20 minutes. The skeleton crew that remained, 42 volunteers, prepared for what would likely be their final mission. "Quantum coordinates locked," Ixora reported. "Targeting the command vessel." Veril nodded, studying the faces of her remaining crew. Tamir, the brilliant scientist whose theories had made Omega possible. Ixora, whose navigation skills were unmatched. Chief Engineer Calvis Rohn, whose modifications to the quantum drive might actually give them a chance. "If this works," Rohn said, breaking the silence, "we're going to rewrite every law of physics in the textbooks." "If this works," Veril replied, "there will be textbooks to rewrite." The Defiance shuddered as the quantum drive powered up, drawing energy from the ship's fusion core at an alarming rate. "Structural integrity at 87% and falling," warned Ensign Zenov from her station. "The ship wasn't designed for this kind of quantum stress." "Hold it together," Veril ordered. "Activate the displacement field." The view outside the bridge windows changed as space itself seemed to fold around them. Stars blurred into streaks of light. Reality itself protested as the Defiance tore a hole through the fabric of space-time. 3 seconds to displacement, Ixora counted down. 2, 1, the universe blinked. The Defiance materialized in the center of the Maikari armada, the quantum jump so precise that they appeared mere kilometers from the massive alien command ship. For one breathless moment, The element of surprise was complete. All. "Power to weapons!" Varel ordered. "Deploy the matter disruptors!" The experimental weapons, reverse-engineered from salvaged Maikari technology, powered up with an ominous hum. On the view screen, the Maikari vessels began to react, their organic metallic, hulls rippling as they recognized the threat. "First volley away," Ixora reported, her voice tight with concentration. The disruptors fired, sending pulses of energy that appeared almost black against the starfield. When they struck the nearest Maikari vessels, the effect was immediate and devastating. The alien ships didn't explode so much as unravel, their molecular structure collapsing in on itself. "It's working!" Tamir exclaimed, eyes wide as he watched his theoretical science become lethal reality. But the Maikari weren't the most feared species in the known galaxy for nothing. Their adaptation was swift and merciless. The command ship emitted a pulse of energy that washed over the fleet, and the disruptor beams began to lose effectiveness. "They're adapting to the frequency," Tamir warned, recalibrating. The ship rocked violently as the first Maikari counterattack hit. The bridge lights flickered. "Shield. Integrity at 64%, Xenov called out. "Another hit like that and we're in trouble." Varel gripped the arms of her command chair. "Evasive pattern Delta. Keep us moving. Tamir, how long until the disruptors are recalibrated?" 90 seconds. Maybe less. "We don't have 90 seconds, Roan shouted from the engineering station. Core temperature rising. The quantum jump destabilized the containment field. Outside, the Maikari fleet was reorganizing, surrounding the Defiance in a sphere of weaponized vessels. The command ship remained at the center, protected by layers of defenders. "New plan," Varel announced. "Ixora, plot a course directly for the command ship." "Commander?" Ixora questioned, understanding dawning in her eyes. "If we can't disrupt them all, we disrupt the one that matters. Their command structure is hierarchical. We take out the head, the body falls." Roan looked up from his console. "The core breach might actually help with that. If we can channel the energy release—" "Do it," Varel ordered. The Defiance surged forward, taking hit after hit as it drove toward the heart of the Maikari fleet. The shields weakened with each impact. "Shield integrity at 41%, Xenov reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. 39%, 36%. Tamir worked frantically at his station, recalibrating the disruptors to focus all power on a single beam. If we can hit the command ship's central node— Another hit rocked the ship. A console exploded, sending an officer flying. "Medic to the bridge," Varel called, then turned to Ixora. "Time to target?" 30 seconds at current speed. "But Commander, their defenses are concentrating." The view screen showed hundreds of Maikari vessels converging to protect their command ship. "The Defiance would never make it through that wall of firepower, unless—" "Roan," Varel said, "the quantum drive. Can we make another jump? A small one, just enough to bypass their defensive screen?" The engineer's eyes widened. "Theoretically. But the core is already unstable. A second quantum event could trigger an immediate breach. Could we control when that breach happens?" A slow smile spread across Roan's face as he caught her meaning. "Delayed detonation sequence. Jump in, set the core to blow, jump out. It's insane, but it might work." "Make it happen." As Roan reprogrammed the quantum drive, the rest of the bridge crew prepared for what might be their final maneuver. The Maikari weapons continued to pound the ship, the shields now below 30%. "Quantum jump plotted," Ixora announced. "Targeting their command center." "Core breach sequence programmed," Roan confirmed. 10-second delay after jump. Varel took a deep breath. "All hands brace for quantum displacement." The universe blinked again. The Defiance emerged inside the Maikari command ship's defensive perimeter, so close to the massive alien vessel that it appeared to fill the entire view screen. Up close, the horror of the Maikari biotechnology was fully apparent. The ship was partly alive, its hull pulsing with what looked disturbingly like veins and muscle tissue interwoven with metallic components. "Core breach in 10 seconds, Roan shouted. "Plotting emergency jump coordinates." The Maikari reacted instantly, organic weapons ports opening along the command ship's hull. Strange tentacle-like appendages extended toward the Defiance. "Fire everything we've got," Varel ordered. "Tamir, the disruptors." The scientist activated the recalibrated weapons. A single concentrated beam of dark energy lanced out, striking the command ship at what sensors identified as a neural cluster. The effect was immediate. The organic components of the vessel spasmed, the tentacles retracting as if in pain. 5 seconds to core breach, Roan warned. "Quantum drive spooling," Ixora called out, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. The tentacles recovered and shot toward them again, faster this time. One smashed against the viewport, a horrifying appendage tipped with what looked like a drill beginning to bore through the reinforced glass. 3 seconds! Jump coordinates locked! 2 seconds! The viewport cracked. Klaxons blared throughout the ship. 1! Jumping now! The universe blinked, but something went wrong. The quantum field fluctuated, disrupted by the Maikari tentacle that had partially penetrated the ship's hull. The Defiance shuddered, caught between spaces. "We're not clear," Ixora shouted. "Core breach imminent," Roan yelled. Varel made the only decision she could. "Divert all remaining power to the disruptors. Target their central mass." As the core began to collapse, the disruptors fired one final time. The concentrated energy beam, now supercharged by the failing core, struck the command ship's heart. The effect cascaded through the massive vessel, its organic mechanical structure, coming apart at the molecular level. "Brace for impact," Varel called out as the first wave of the core breach hit the bridge. The universe didn't so much blink as explode. The quantum field, the failing core, and the matter disruption technology combined in ways that defied physics. The Defiance was torn apart, but in its destruction it created something unprecedented. A quantum disruption wave that spread outward from the point of detonation. In the expanding sphere of destruction, Varel had one final thought. At least, Earth would be safe. Hours later, when Admiral Rennick's rescue fleet arrived at the coordinates of the Maikari fleet, they found only debris and a single escape pod. Inside was Chief Science Officer Tamir, barely alive. When he regained consciousness, in the medical bay of the flagship, his first words were, "It worked," but not like we expected. The quantum disruption had created a cascade effect through the entire Maikari fleet. The aliens' interconnected biotechnology, which had been their greatest strength, became their downfall. As the command ship disintegrated, at the quantum level, the effect spread to every vessel connected to its network. All of them. "The Defiance?" Admiral Rennick asked. Tamir shook his head. "Gone. Commander Sorens, Lieutenant Drell, Roan, Zenov, all of them. They saved Earth, Admiral. They saved us all." What no one yet realized was that the quantum disruption hadn't just destroyed the invasion fleet. It had created a subspace beacon, one that was even now racing toward the Maikari homeworld. Varel Sorens opened her eyes to darkness and pain. Every cell in her body felt wrong, as if she'd been disassembled and put back together by someone who had only a vague idea of human anatomy. She tried to move and found her limbs responding sluggishly. "Commander?" A familiar voice called out. "Commander Sorens? Can you hear me?" Varel's vision slowly cleared. Lieutenant Ixora Drell was leaning over her, face streaked with blood but very much alive. "How?" Varel managed to croak. "We're not entirely sure," Ixora admitted. "The quantum field. It did something when it collapsed. Roan thinks we were quantum shifted just before the core breach." Varel struggled to sit up and found herself in what appeared to be an escape pod, but not one from the Defiance. The technology around her was alien, with organic components that pulsed with an inner light. "Is this Maikari technology?" she asked, alarm cutting through her disorientation. "Yes and no," came another voice. Engineer Calvis Roan emerged from the shadows of the pod, looking haggard but exhilarated. "It's Maikari, but it's been fundamentally altered. When the disruptors hit their command ship at the same time as our core breach, it created a quantum molecular rewrite. Their technology is being recoded at the subatomic level." "How many of us survived?" Verrill asked, noticing the pod was larger inside than it had appeared. 17, Ixora answered. "All in this pod. The rest—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. "And the Maikari fleet?" "Devastated," Rowan said with grim satisfaction. "But, Commander, that's not the interesting part. The quantum disruption is still spreading through their network. Their entire technological base uses quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication. Our disruption wave is traveling along those pathways." Verrill struggled to comprehend. "You're saying the effect is reaching beyond this fleet, to their other forces?" "To their homeworld," Rowan confirmed. "And it's not just destroying their technology, it's rewriting it." Before Verrill could process this, a communication screen flickered to life on the pod's wall. Admiral Rennick's face appeared, lined with worry that gave way to shock. "Commander, Sorens? My God, we thought you were dead." "Almost worse, sir," Verrill replied. "Where are you?" "Approaching the battlefield. Our long-range sensors detected the quantum event. The entire Maikari fleet is... well, I'm not sure destroyed is the right word. Transformed might be more accurate." Tamir's voice came from off-screen. "The molecular disruption has fundamentally altered their biotechnology. It's no longer responding to Maikari control signals." "We're picking up your pod signal now," Rennick continued. "Hang tight. Rescue teams are on the way." When the survivors of the Defiance were finally brought aboard the flagship, the full scope of what had happened began to emerge. The quantum disruption hadn't simply destroyed the Maikari fleet. It had restructured their biotechnology on a fundamental level, breaking their control over their own weapons and ships. More astonishing were the readings coming from deeper space. The disruption wave was continuing to propagate through the Maikari quantum network, reaching their forward bases, their supply lines, and eventually, their homeworld itself. In the flagship's situation room, Verrill and her surviving crew members gathered with Admiral Rennick and his senior staff to assess what had happened. The Maikari built their entire civilization on quantum-entangled biotechnology, Tamir explained, displaying holographic models of the alien tech. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of their infrastructure is connected in a single network. Our disruption didn't just break that network, it rewrote its fundamental operating parameters. "What does that mean in practical terms?" Rennick asked. "It means," Roan interjected, "that they can no longer control their own technology. The molecular structure has been recoded to reject Maikari neural patterns." Ensign Zenov, who had survived with a badly broken arm, spoke up. "We've been monitoring communications from throughout the system. The Maikari colonies on Titan and Ganymede have gone silent. Their ships are adrift." Verrill stared at the tactical display, watching as green indicators replaced red throughout the solar system. "We didn't just stop their invasion," she said slowly. "We've neutralized their entire species. Technological base, not just in our system," Tamir added quietly. "Everywhere." The implications were staggering. What had begun as a desperate last stand had turned into something else entirely, a complete reversal of fortune. Commander Sorens, Admiral Rennick, said formally, "I believe you may have just won us the war." 3 weeks later, the UES Reclaimer, a hastily retrofitted vessel combining human and recoded Maikari technology, approached the edges of the Maikari home system. On the bridge now, Captain Verrill Sorens watched the tactical display with a mixture of apprehension and grim determination. "Any sign they've adapted to the disruption?" she asked Tamir, who had been working around the clock to understand the transformed alien technology. "None." the scientist replied. The quantum recoding is holding across all systems we've monitored. Their biotechnology no longer responds to their neural patterns. What had started as a desperate defense of Earth had evolved into something unprecedented, a counter-invasion. But unlike the Maikari, humanity wasn't coming to conquer or destroy. They were coming to understand, and to ensure this threat could never rise again. "We're receiving the telemetry from the advanced probes," Ixora announced from her station. "Displaying now." The main view screen switched to show the Maikari homeworld, a gas giant with 7 habitable moons. Or rather, what had once been habitable moons. Now 6 of the 7 showed signs of massive technological failure. Sprawling cities lay dark. Orbital platforms drifted, unpowered. "Life signs?" Varel asked. "Present but scattered," Zenoff replied from the science station she now shared with Tamir. "They're alive, but their civilization has essentially collapsed." The reclaimer wasn't alone. Behind it came a fleet of 20 Earth vessels, not for combat, but for research and, if necessary, humanitarian assistance. Humanity, having faced extinction, had chosen a different path than their would-be destroyers. "Take us into orbit around their primary colony moon," Varel ordered. "Maintain defensive posture, but no aggressive actions unless fired upon." As they approached, they detected faint communication signals, the Maikari using crude radio technology, a desperate fallback now that their quantum network had been rewritten. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," Ixora reported. "Our translators are working on it, but the general message seems clear. They're asking for help." The irony wasn't lost on anyone on the bridge. The species that had offered humanity only submission or death was now facing its own extinction. "Prepare a landing party," Varel decided. "Tamir, Rowan, you're with me. We need to understand what we're dealing with here." The surface of the moon was chaotic. Once magnificent structures of living metal now stood inert or partially collapsed. The Maikari themselves were revealed for the first time. Tall, spindly beings with 4 arms and iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with their emotions. Without their fearsome technology, they appeared almost fragile. A delegation met the human landing party in what had once been a central plaza. The aliens communicated through primitive translation devices, their once mighty civilization reduced to using technology that humans had surpassed centuries ago. "You did this," their leader, who called itself Nexor, stated. "Not an accusation, but a simple acknowledgement of fact. You rewrote the Great Network." "You gave us no choice," Varel replied evenly. "You came to our world to destroy us." "Because the prophecies demanded it," another Maikari interjected. "The calculations were absolute. If humanity continued to advance, you would eventually unmake us. We sought to strike first." Tamir stepped forward. "Your prophecies were based on quantum probability calculations?" The Maikari equivalent of a nod. "Our seers glimpsed the probability threads. In every future, where humanity reached its potential, the Maikari fell." "Self-fulfilling prophecy," Rowan muttered. "They attacked us because they foresaw we would defeat them, which caused us to defeat them." "What happens now?" Nexor asked. "Will you exterminate us, as we would have done to you?" Varel looked around at the fallen civilization, at the Maikari children huddling behind their elders, at a species brought low not by weapons of mass destruction, but by the severing of their connection to their own technology. "No," she said finally. "That's not who we are. We came to understand, and to offer terms. The terms were straightforward. Humanity would help the Maikari stabilize their society and develop new, non-quantum technology. In exchange, the Maikari would share their knowledge of the galaxy beyond humanity's reach. There would be monitoring, restrictions, and a long period of supervised development. It wasn't surrender. It wasn't conquest. It was something new. A recognition that survival alone wasn't enough. That true victory lay in breaking the cycle of destruction. As the first joint Maikari human research team began work on restoring basic services to the colony moon, Veryl found herself standing with Nexor, looking out over the darkened landscape. Your response was unexpected, the alien admitted. Our calculations never predicted this outcome. That's the problem with probability, Veryl replied. It can tell you what might happen, but not what should happen. That's a choice we make ourselves. 1 year after the confrontation at the Maikari homeworld, Earth had changed. The integration of recoded Maikari biotechnology with human innovation had accelerated technological development by decades. Cities gleamed with living architecture that responded to human needs. Medical advances had eliminated dozens of previously incurable diseases, but the most profound changes were happening 40 light-years away in the Maikari home system, where Captain Veryl Sorens had remained as the lead diplomat for the joint recovery mission. The UES Harmony, the first vessel to incorporate fully integrated human Maikari technology, orbited the primary colony moon, now officially named Concordia. On its observation deck, Veryl stood with Nexor, watching as construction drones built a new settlement, one designed by human and Maikari architects working together. The Council of Elders has approved the final treaty terms, Nexor announced. The Maikari's skin rippled with blue-green patterns that Veryl had learned indicated cautious optimism. After 11 generations of isolation, we will join the galactic community. What the Maikari had never revealed until after their defeat was that they had been alone in their corner of the galaxy for thousands of years. Their aggressive expansion had been driven partly by fear of what lay beyond, fear of being unprepared for threats they couldn't predict. Earth's parliament ratified it yesterday, Veryl replied. The Protected Species Accord goes into effect next month. The accord wasn't just a peace treaty between humans and Maikari. It established a framework for joint exploration and mutual defense with provisions for encountering and protecting less technologically advanced species. It was a foundation for something greater than either civilization had envisioned alone. There's something you should see, Nexor said, leading Veryl to a laboratory deep within Concordia's revitalized science center. Inside, Tamir and a team of Maikari scientists worked around a containment field that held what appeared to be swirling luminescent smoke. The quantum disruption created something new, Tamir explained, eyes bright with excitement. The recoding of Maikari technology wasn't just a destructive process, it was transformative. We're calling it quantum consciousness. The swirling patterns in the containment field formed complex, ever-changing structures that responded to the presence of observers. It wasn't alive in any conventional sense, but it wasn't simply a physical phenomenon either. It exists simultaneously across all affected Maikari technology, one of the Maikari scientists added, a distributed awareness that spans light years instantaneously. Is it sentient? Veryl asked, watching the patterns shift and flow. We believe it's becoming so, Tamir replied. And it's growing more complex every day. The implications were staggering. A new form of intelligence, born from the collision of two species' technologies in a moment of desperate conflict. The prophecies weren't entirely wrong, Nexor observed. Humanity did unmake the Maikari as we were, but not through destruction, through transformation. Later that evening, as celebrations marking the formal alliance between Earth and the Maikari worlds continued in the newly illuminated plazas of Concordia, Veryl found a quiet moment alone on a balcony overlooking the capital. Ixora found her, there, now wearing the insignia of a full commander. The quantum consciousness made contact, she said without preamble. It requested to speak with you specifically. In a secure communication chamber, Veryl faced a holographic representation of the quantum consciousness, a complex, shifting lattice of light that somehow conveyed intelligence and purpose. Commander Sorens, it greeted her, its voice a harmonious blend of tones. Creator! I didn't create you, Veryl objected. If anything, you were an accident. An emergence, the consciousness corrected. The quantum wave you initiated rewrote possibility itself. I am the product of that rewriting. A new form of existence that spans the quantum network. What do you want? Verrill asked. To show you what I've discovered. The holographic display shifted, showing what appeared to be a map of quantum pathways, extending far beyond the Maikari network. The universe is more connected than either humans or Maikari realized. There are other networks, other civilizations, linked through the quantum substrate of reality itself. The display zoomed out further, revealing a vast web of connections, spanning thousands of light years. Within that web, bright nodes pulsed, hundreds of them, each potentially representing another civilization. We are not alone, the consciousness continued. And many of these others have been watching, some with fear, some with hope, some with intentions yet unclear. Verrill studied the map, understanding dawning. The Maikari weren't just afraid of us. They were afraid of what's out there. Yes. And now, together, humans, Maikari, and I, we can prepare. Not for conflict, but for contact, for understanding, for a future none of us could have achieved alone. As Verrill looked at the quantum map of civilizations waiting to be discovered, she understood the true meaning of victory. It wasn't about survival against impossible odds. It wasn't even about turning defeat into triumph. It was about transformation, about becoming something greater than what came before. Protocol Omega, she murmured, remembering the desperate plan that had started it all. In ancient Earth languages, Omega meant the end, or the final stage of development. The consciousness replied. The culmination of a process, a beginning disguised as an ending. Outside, the newly formed alliance celebrated its first day of existence, unaware that they stood on the threshold of something far greater, a quantum horizon that would change the very nature of existence in the galaxy. Survival hadn't been in the cards. Total victory was. But victory had come in a form none of them could have imagined. Not the defeat of an enemy, but the birth of a future where the very concept of enemy might one day become obsolete. As the quantum consciousness faded from view, its final words lingered. This is only the beginning. And for the first time since the Maikari had appeared in Earth's skies 18 months ago, Commander Verrill Sorens allowed herself to smile at the thought of what lay ahead.